Hi, my name is Sam Gasquey, and along with Jonathan, Aaron, and Kiera, and Craig, we have all chosen to do Puerto Rico, and doing this assignment was wonderful. I enjoyed it a lot. I loved learning about the territory and all of its wonderful glories and all that good stuff. But in Puerto Rico, the location is about 1,000 miles away from Miami, and it's the Caribbean island, and it's a territory that belongs to the United States. So back in the early 1900s, the United States actually got the territory or got the island and made it become a territory. So that now it is part of the United States of America. The history about Puerto Rico, it was a little weird. So the earliest settlers known to date was during around the 1400s, and they were called Taños. And Taños were nomads, if you'd say, people who migrated from place to place, and they were just looking for food, water, shelter for a couple of days, and they'd move on, and they'd keep on going. Well, they originally called Puerto Rico Boricane, if I'm not mistaken, and that went along until Columbus had discovered what we know it as Puerto Rico, and he named the island San Juan Bautista, something like that, and it was just in honor of the church and Christianity and spreading the knowledge of it and all that. But as time went on, tourists and traders and commercial fishermen, when they would come to the island, they would call it Puerto Rico, and so Puerto Rico just stuck. And then they changed the name to Puerto Rico, and the San Juan name actually became the name of the main shipping port in Puerto Rico. The governor of Puerto Rico, the first governor of Puerto Rico, his name was Juan Ponce de Leon, and he actually helped out a lot with changing the name and making the shipping port name to San Juan. The capital and major cities. The capital and major cities, there is a good bit of major cities in there because of the beaches and all the vacation resorts and all the glorious, beautiful, scenic architect out there and everything. But the most populous city would have to be the capital. The capital of Puerto Rico is actually called San Juan too. And there's about approximately over 300,000 people that live in the capital, and there's only like 3.2 million residents that live on the whole island in all. But as I was saying, Puerto Rico is a very famous vacation spot for tourists, and they like to come and see all the beautiful beaches, and that's what really makes Puerto Rico. All the money is from all the tourists that come and travel and visit and all that. The government and economy. The government in Puerto Rico is the same in the United States. It's a democracy. They vote on stuff, and they're more of a republic kind of place. The elections are basically the same as America, and you know they have to be voted on and all that good stuff. And Puerto Rico is, by the World Bank, they are actually considered a very high income territory, and that means they do bring a lot for what they have. They do bring in a lot of money for what they have and what they export and import. And actually the national income per capita in Puerto Rico was $21,000, over $21,000. So Puerto Rico, you know, does have a lot of money coming in for what they do and for what their income is. But anyway, Puerto Rico was a lot of fun learning about.
For my tourist attraction in Puerto Rico, I chose El Yunque. Some general information on it: it's a tropical rainforest with ample rainfall. Some areas get over 200 inches annually. It has a jungle-like setting with lush foliage, waterfalls, and rivers. It's located in the northeast corner of Puerto Rico, with the main entrance in Rio Grande. It contains hundreds of species of trees, orchids, plants, and a few animals. Some common animals found in El Yunque are the web-footed caquis, the Puerto Rican emerald, which is in this image, the sooty mustached bat, anoles, Puerto Rican woodpeckers, and Antillean ghost-faced bats. A popular day tour you can take there is a guided tour through the rugged portion in the rainforest, and then kayaking through the calm waters while spotting different wildlife. As you hike towards your waterfall destination, you will be educated on the ecosystem by the tours. You stop for lunch at a local and typical restaurant, and then continue your journey to one of Puerto Rico's most famous bioluminescent bays, where you can enjoy free time seeing the waters light up with glowing organisms before paddling back. Here are some images of the guided day tour. You can also enjoy zip lining through 8 different sections of cables covering about 2,800 feet, and there is a 30-minute walk up to where you will be zip lining, where you can see bamboo trees, rainforest flowers, and many other beautiful plants. Some facts about El Yunque is it's the only tropical rainforest in the United States National Forest System. It's a sacred place in Puerto Rican culture. Some people believe its name comes from the Tano word yuque, or white earth, a reference to the clouds that are around the mountainous peak. No hunting is allowed, although the civilization is getting too close and they're cutting down too many trees. It's in danger, but the animals are not allowed to be hunted. It rains about 4 times a day there, making it the rainiest of all national forests. It has 28,000 acres of lush tropical vegetation. The rare Puerto Rican parrot can be seen, which is one of the most endangered birds in the world. There's only about 30 of them left. Some of the dangers in El Yunque is the giant centipede. It's a small, colorful insect that leaves an extremely painful bite. It's considered one of the most dangerous animals in Puerto Rico. The brown recluse spider can also be found in the forest. They're small, but their bites could be deadly. Other spiders that are found there are the black widow, which is potentially deadly, the Puerto Rican tarantula, which is harmless, and the banana spider, which is also harmless, but it could be a painful bite. Other dangerous species in the forest can include scorpions, sharks, snakes, lionfish, and box jellyfish. Here are some of the dangerous animals or insects. Here is the location in the northeast part of Puerto Rico and on the slopes of the Sierra de Luquillo Mountains. And my sources.
Alright, so my part of the Spanish Root Project was to do the biography of a famous person, and that famous person is Bad Bunny. If I'm sure most people are familiar with Bad Bunny already, he's a very popular person. I chose him because he has become so popular lately, and he's one of my favorite artists personally. But he's definitely my favorite Hispanic artist. So I thought it'd be interesting just to share some information about Bad Bunny. He is one of the main reasons I decided to take this class in the first place. So yeah, I thought this was a good choice. Just to give you a little background information on Benito, aka Bad Bunny. His real name is Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio. He was born in '94, so he's about 28 years old right now, still relatively young. And he is, like I said in the previous slide, he's a singer slash, but he also is a songwriter. So it is very common for singers to sometimes write songs for others and themselves as well. And he was born in, of course, San Juan, Puerto Rico, which is the capital of Puerto Rico, the country that we are assigned to. And right here on the right is just a picture of young Bad Bunny, or Benito, whichever one you prefer to call him. And this is the early life section of Bad Bunny's biography. He was raised in a lower class, middle class household, so not dirt poor, but also definitely not living luxury. You know, kind of on the bottom end of things. His mother was a teacher, dad was a truck driver, so definitely not dirt poor, but they made a decent living. And coming up, he admired famous reggaeton artists like Daddy Yankee and Vico C. Um, I know a lot of people in the U.S. are very familiar with Daddy Yankee. He was kind of like the Bad Bunny of older times, of a few decades ago, a couple decades ago. I know he was really popular in the '90s and definitely the early 2000s. I remember hearing him a lot. So, if you like Bad Bunny, you might like Daddy Yankee. I encourage you to check him out. Benito, early in his life, he always had a passion for music. He sang in the local Catholic church choir till he was 13 years old, and then moving on to creating his own stuff. When he graduated high school, he decided to enroll in the audio-visual communications program at the University of Puerto Rico. Oh, and one more thing, if you're not familiar with what reggaeton is, it's kind of like a mixture between, hip hop and reggae, and traditional reggae. Okay, here goes a few points about Bad Bunny's early career. Like I said in the last slide, he went to University of Puerto Rico to study music and audiovisual communications. And while he was in college, through his studies, he learned a lot and was able to learn how to actually create his own music and post it on SoundCloud. And this was around 2016. So if you're not familiar with that era, that SoundCloud was the go-to platform for up-and-coming music artists. In the I'd say from late 2014 to around early 2018, everyone who made music was posting to SoundCloud, and it's still a very popular platform. I use it personally, but it definitely saw its heyday in about that area in 2016, 2017, 18. So Bad Bunny definitely utilized SoundCloud at the perfect time, and he released his first hit song on SoundCloud called Dials. And after that, he was discovered by DJ Luian, who was a well-renowned DJ and a producer in Puerto Rico. And he was signed to, he'd eventually signed Bad Bunny to his record label called Mambo Kings. If you look at the picture here in the bottom right, you can see the record label name beside DJ Luian's name. And for most artists, it takes a while before you catch a big break and you garner the attention that you deserve for putting in so much work. But for Bad Bunny, it wasn't like that. Bad Bunny was just kind of like this guy who was born to make music and born to be super popular and successful. So his success was immediate. You know, from day one, as soon as he got on the SoundCloud platform and started uploading music, he was immediately successful. And his first, two of his first most popular songs, Soy Pure and Since the Other Died. And they eventually reached the top of the Billboard charts, which is a huge accomplishment. It's difficult to get on the Billboard charts enough and to reach the top of the Billboard. That's just a huge accomplishment, especially so early in your career. And if you're not familiar with the Billboard charts, it's just kind of like a ranking system of songs, albums through different genres and categories. And they usually have the main list that people look at the Billboard is for albums it'll be the top 200 albums, and for songs it'll be the top 100. And it's extremely, you have to be extremely popular to get at the upper end of those charts. And he eventually hired Noah Assad as a manager to develop a better marketing plan via YouTube. And Noah Assad was he's a manager. He was manager for Karol G as well, a very popular Hispanic artist who's definitely not on Bad Bunny's level right now, but is a huge artist nonetheless. And they wanted to use the plan with YouTube was to instead of relying on the record label Mambo Kings, Noah Assad thought a better idea was to just post singles on YouTube with videos, music videos, and that seems to have worked pretty well. And you can definitely see a transition of more artists taking on this approach instead of being held down by record labels. And here is Bad Bunny's rise to fame. Bad Bunny, like I discussed in previous slides, his real name is not Bad Bunny, of course. He was named Bad Bunny by fans, actually, after a childhood photo was leaked of him wearing a bunny hat, similar to the one in his picture as a child. So once that photo was leaked, the fans started coming to call him Bad Bunny, and it just stuck with it. And he changed his Twitter handle or name to Bad Bunny, and it just stuck from then. Sorry. And he exploded into worldwide fame after the collaboration in 2018 with Cardi B. The song "I Like It." If you don't recognize the title, you definitely have heard this song. And this song was eventually nominated for a Grammy. That's how successful it was. And this was Bad Bunny's first time, gaining worldwide popularity. Not just within Latin America and within the Hispanic community in the U.S. People listen to these songs that don't even speak the tiniest bit of Spanish. And another hit in 2018. 2018 was a big year for Bad Bunny. He also collabed with Drake on Mia. And I know this is another song that you definitely heard if you don't recognize the title. This song was so successful, it eventually reached the top 5 on the Billboard 100, actually. And that's just a huge accomplishment in and of itself. These songs that go to top 5 on the Billboard, they eventually do fall, but they stay on the Billboard for years. And this song basically gave him what's called the Drake effect. And if you're not familiar with the Drake effect is basically the phenomenon where any up-and-coming artist, if they can get a feature with Drake, then it's almost a guaranteed long-term success. And it just has been like that forever, ever since Drake became so popular. And this just further pushed Bad Bunny into international success. And he followed it up. He just kept going. He followed it up with his debut album, X100 PRE. And went on to receive a Grammy for that as well. And after that, he released another album, a joint album with J Balvin, another renowned artist. He's actually from Colombia. He's a Colombian artist. Makes similar music to Bad Bunny. An album was called Oasis, and that earned another Grammy nomination. So you can see Bad Bunny just on fire at this point. Right before the pandemic, he performed at the 2020 Super Bowl with Shakira, Jennifer Lopez, and J Balvin, 3 superstars. So now that he's performing with people on this caliber, he's established himself as a superstar artist, especially within the Latino community. And he released another album in 2020 following that Super Bowl performance called El Último Tour del Mundo. And this became the first Spanish album to debut #1 on the Billboard 200 chart. Huge accomplishment. And not by first Spanish album, I mean the first Spanish-speaking album, not the first album by a Spanish-speaking person. So no one's ever done that. To go #1. This is Bad Bunny says it all the time that it was his goal. One of his biggest goals was to go #1 without speaking English, and he got that done in 2020. And here are just a few of the recent accomplishments from Bad Bunny over the last couple years or so. This is just a recent thing. He won the Latin Music Award for Artist of the Year all 3 years, 2020, 2021, and 2022. He won a Grammy this year for the Best Urban Song, Latin Grammy. And he also won MTV Artist of the Year in 2022. He was the first Spanish-speaking person to do that. So that's another record in the books. And he won several. He won 10, 20, 30 different awards. I know I couldn't fit them all in one PowerPoint, but these are just some of the ones that stood out to me personally, and they were recent. And this last one is just, it's crazy to think about. His latest album, Un Verano Sin Ti, spent a whopping 13 weeks at #1 on the Billboard 200. That's the most in 10 years since Adele's huge 21 album. Back in like 2012 or so. And this title, this slide I titled "Perspective" just because you can throw out all the numbers you want, but the only one way to see how successful this man has become within such a short time is compare him to the artists that you already know. And these are just a couple of headlines that I thought just were crazy to look at. Here goes one in the top right. Bad Bunny beats Taylor Swift and Drake to be most streamed artist on Spotify in 2021. These are Taylor Swift, Drake. These are artists that people know. It's that their household names. Your grandma, your mama, your grandpa. They know these people. And Bad Bunny's in the same conversation. He's actually performing better than them. There's one in the middle. On the release of his new album, Bad Bunny was streamed 183 million times, beating Drake's daily stream record, which is just phenomenal to beat Drake's record in such little time. Drake streams are just Drake has more streams than pretty much everyone. So Bad Bunny's just getting started. And here in the upper left, you see Bad Bunny surpasses The Weeknd as the most streamed artist on all platforms. And The Weeknd has been on fire as well. All platforms, mean Spotify, Apple Music, you name it. And here's another chart, a cool chart that I found, just to put things into perspective. This is the highest grossing world tours from 2022 so far. And just look at the names that you see and just how much better Bad Bunny has performed. You have Elton John, BTS, Morgan Wilson, John Mayer, Coldplay. These are household names all around the world, and Bad Bunny is doing pretty much twice as well as they are, and the only Spanish speaker. Here are my sources, and that'll be all. Thank you for watching. All right, so I'm back again with our fourth topic, which is an interesting social or historical aspect of our country, Puerto Rico. And one thing I thought that was interesting to touch on was the African influence of Puerto Rico for this topic specifically. So let's get into it. I'm going to start off with the origin of the African influence in Puerto Rico. And just to get started, the first major influx of Africans in Puerto Rico came through the arrival in the 1500s of slaves being forcibly forced to provide labor for the Spanish colonizers in the 1500s. And and basically, this is just where it all started. People need Africans were seen as more suited and better laborers because of their reluctance to diseases and things of that nature that the indigenous people could not ward off. And the Spanish Edict of 1664 actually, this is later on, it created an offer. It offered freedom and land to the Africans that were preferred to move to non-Spanish colonies like Jamaica and Haiti. So that shows you why there's such a huge African influence in the Jamaica and Haiti, because that's where the free ones went. As the result of this policy. And as we know, the second major influx of Africans in Puerto Rico came from the African slave trade, the Atlantic slave trade that the U.S. was a big player in the 1700s. These Africans were brought to Puerto Rico to harvest sugar, coffee, cotton, tobacco. Whereas the ones, in the first major influx in the 1500s were brought primarily to work and find gold. That was a big industry at the time, and that was Spanish main focus. But in 1700s, they focused on these big cash crops here. And I thought this was something really interesting to bring up. which is if you look at the bottom here, those last bullet point, and this is the census in 1834 in Puerto Rico, and you can see, you know, Africans would make up a huge portion of the population. And this is the physical features section, and if you know, Puerto Rican people are basically a mixture of Spaniard from the time of Spanish colonization and the indigenous Taino people and the imported Africans. So this right here on the right, this picture, this is what they, if you didn't know, this is what the indigenous Taino people look like. This is an example of what they would look like. And one reason that Puerto Ricans have some of the some features, some distinct features of the same distinct features as Africans is because the majority of the slaves brought into work were men, and when these men were freed, they went about their life and got married and had children with the indigenous Taino women, which created the mulatto. Taking a look at some of the staples in Puerto Rican cuisine, like mofongo. Personally had this dish and it's delicious, but I just found out that this is a dish that derived from African staple dish called fufu, which is still very popular today. And basically, I have a picture right here on the top. That's going to be your West African fufu. And on the bottom, that's the Puerto Rican mofongo. And you can see the similarities here. It's kind of like an evolution, when you mix the three different cultures and the cuisines, this is what you get. Another example was a fried salt cod fritter, which is a popular treat, which also derived from, a West African dish called akara. And it came together with traditional Spanish food to create this dish. And here's a big one here, which is racism towards Africans in Puerto Rico. And it all started that way, similar to the U.S. with the Jim Crow laws and the civil rights movement, to limit these Africans from a potential rebellion like what happened in Haiti. The Africans that were freed were faced with lots of racist laws put in place to control their behavior and basically limit their power. So they would be reluctant to decide to rebel. And as a result, with years and years of this, um, people started to discriminate against African Puerto Ricans, even within, their own communities and in the country. Because these people had to face different laws from the other citizens of Puerto Rico. So, people would discriminate and want to dissociate themselves with them. So, features like dark skin or coarse hair texture that you would traditionally see in African or West African, they became unfavorable characteristics in Puerto Rico. And this is still a very present issue today in Puerto Rico. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
So my group did Puerto Rico. Specifically, my question was question 4. This was about either a holiday or festival. I chose Fiestas de la Cali San Sebastian. This is a large event with food and music and parades. I won't get into it so much now, but it's kind of a cool way for Puerto Rico to wrap up their holiday season. So who's involved? Like I said, this is a large scale event, so hundreds of thousands of people are there. Um, this includes both locals and visitors. I would say majority of the people are locals, though, just because of it is their food, their culture, and kind of their holiday that is different from other people's, and it's a way for them, like I said, to wrap up their holidays. As well as that, as well as the locals, they have a lot of local dancers and performers that are throughout the streets. So when you walk, you can see all different types of people and entertainment. So it's a cool, upbeat environment for everyone, and just a cool way to gather. So what is it? So it started as an annual feast lasting about 3 days. Now, so much they have street vendors and restaurants and bars. So a lot of places to stop in and get some of the culture and food. As well as this, they line the balconies of Cali San Sebastian with colorful displays and things of that nature. And like I said, they have the music and the dancers and the performers. So yeah, it's an upbeat environment, and a lot of locals refer to it as this great big party uh, to wrap up the holidays. So when did it occur? So it started in the early 1950s, um, and since then, every third weekend in January, people celebrate and participate in this, and they start as early as 6 a.m. In the recent years, they haven't been doing that as much just because of the pandemic and COVID, but um, as time goes on, they'll start to get back into that. So where specifically is it? So in Puerto Rico, there's a city with about 350,000 people called Old San Juan. This is where the festivities happen, and I mean, up and down the streets, they have a lot of historical buildings and churches and things of that nature, which is just a cool place to really gather and bring everyone together. So, why did it start? It originally started as a way to commemorate Saint Sebastian. He was a Christian during the persecution of Christians, so unfortunately he died. But this was a way to honor him and his legacy. Um, as well as that, it was also a way to raise money for the church, um, for repairs and stuff like that. And it brings in a lot of people and a lot of finances that they might not originally have had. And these were the sources that I used throughout. So yeah.
Hola, my name is Aaron, and for this cultural presentation project, my group members and I researched Puerto Rico. My specific presentation will include section 6, which is all about the food. So let's get started. So briefly, Puerto Rico cooking is usually a tasty combination of Spanish, African, Dino, and American influences. Many of the Puerto Rican cuisine has a distinct taste and color as a result of adobo and sofrito. And these are blends of herbs and spices. And at the bottom of my screen here, you can just see some very common Puerto Rican dishes that I searched on the web. So also a part of my assignment was to research and find a famous Puerto Rican dish. So the dish that I chose was malfongo. And here on the screen, I've posted a couple of pictures of different ways that this dish has been prepared. And if you ask me, it's very tasty. So, background about this dish. Quick facts first. Malfongo is traditionally made from deep fried green plantain pieces, mashed with garlic and either salt cured pork, pork cracklings, butter, or oil. Additionally, it is usually stuffed with any type of meat. So this could include shrimp, stewed chicken, fried pork, steak, etc. The list goes on. So some brief history is next. Although Malfongo is Puerto Rican, it does have African origins, as it was originally brought to Puerto Rico by slaves from Western and Central Africa. It is also important to note that this dish is most commonly eaten as a full entree or served as a side dish. Next up, we have a quick and easy recipe that I was thankfully able to find on the web. So step 1 would be to peel the plantains. You want to cut them into 1.5-inch slices. Soak them in salty water for about 15 minutes. After that, you drain them and dry them before putting them on the hot skillet with oil. Step 2. Fry them for about 12 minutes at medium-low heat or until they turn light brown. Make sure to turn them as well. Do not brown them too much because they are easy to mash. You can stick a fork in them to check and see if they are done. Step 3. Remove them and mash them on a mortar. Add some mashed garlic and pieces of chicharron. Step 4. Final step. Once you've mashed all the plantains together, you can mold them into the shape of a half sphere using your hands or a container. And finally, the best part, you can serve them with hot chicken broth or your favorite kind of meat. This page includes all of the references that I used. Thank you so much for your time. Adios.